Attention, all of my elevated content seekers. We Believe Digital is designed to inspire. Whether it's music, news, entertainment, We Believe Digital has the content that you don't want to miss. We're bringing you the best in news, entertainment, sports, inspiration, and so much more. Not only are we designed to inspire, but you can advertise with us and reach your target audience now. Got something that you believe in? Well, we believe in you, and we're offering you the opportunity to become a podcaster at We Believe Digital Studios. To become a Want to know more? You can contact us at www.webelievedigital.com. And while you're at it, be sure to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Roku at We Believe Digital.
Good evening and welcome to Doc and Sock. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi at the We Believe Digital Broadcast Studio. Mississippi, as Mississippi goes, so does the rest of Black America. We got to understand that. Everybody that you meet have relatives from Mississippi. Now, I was in Chicago, and everybody I talked to knew somebody in Mississippi. Mississippi has given so much in terms of Black achievement. When I think about all of the talent that has come out of Mississippi, it's hard to deny that we're number one producer, whether it's talent in vocals, like Sam Cooke from right here in Mississippi, or whether we're talking about Johnson that started Johnson Products right here out of Mississippi. And the list goes on and on and on. I was in Los Angeles, California in 1971, and the mayor of Los Angeles was Tom Bradley, a Black man from Mississippi. And then of all of our major cities, 5 out of our top major cities have Black mayors in the recent 10 years or so. And I got to do some research to see how many we still have today. So goes Mississippi, so goes the rest of the world as it relates to Black folk and Black achievement. This is ground zero. This is where it originated. This is where we all came from. And this is where we all got to return to solve the current problems that we're facing. And we do have some problems, but where there's a problem, there's an opportunity. Now, if you're watching us on Facebook, then share this program with your friends and family. Send us stars and subscribe to the program. Your support is critically important to us being able to bring you this information to share with you and the rest of the world of what's going on down south. You know, when you're up north, you always talk about down south. So we want you to know what's going on. If you're watching us over on YouTube, subscribe to the program, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of these programs. It's critically important that you do that. Now, anywhere you get your streaming from, you can find We Believe Digital, whether it's on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and soon to be on Fanbase. That's something that we want to take a look at because we want to support Black businesses and Black folk that are trying to make a difference. So we look forward to talking with Isaac Hayes Jr. and seeing if we can't join that family as well. Now, as always, my co-host is the distinguished gentleman from the Mississippi Delta, Dr. Eldridge Henderson. I always say that he was born on a plantation in the Mississippi Delta. And that's such a humble beginning. Anybody that can rise above being born on a plantation in the Mississippi Delta in the early 40s has had to overcome a lot of different barriers. That's no easy journey. To get from there to where he is today is one of the most sought after speakers in the entire country. He's going to give you some more information about how you can get in touch with him just a little bit later on. But Doc, It's always good to be in the studio with you. How have you been?
Well, I've been fine, Chuck. I've been doing well. It's very, very uncomfortable here in Mississippi at this time, heat wise, but that's nothing new. That happens every year, at least during the month of July through early September. And I shouldn't be complaining, but I can't handle it like I used to. There's a hot weather, and then cold weather seems to impact me in a negative manner. What do you think the cause of that?
Well, I think it's called aging. I think it's called the number of years, the number of miles that you have on the vehicle. And Doc, you got a few miles.
Yeah, you're right about that. That must be what the problem is then. But I'm gonna have to make some adjustment and keep on driving. Then I can't let the miles get too strong where I have to just stop driving. I have to keep on going at least another 15 or 20 years.
Doc, I'm reminded that the gentleman was in the hospital and he was an 85-year-old man, white man, and he was bragging to the rest of the people at the hospital waiting room that his wife had just had a baby. And he said, I'm 85 years old and I just fathered a child. And everybody else was congratulating him on that. And they went to the window where they view the babies. And the old man told him, he said, before we go in here, I want you to know, y'all to know that y'all can do this too. If you keep your engine in tip-top shape, you will be able to do this at 85. So they went in there to view the baby, and Doc, the baby was black. And so they looked at the man and they said, well, I guess you didn't change the oil in that old engine. And so it was just a little levity there, Doc. But you got an 85-year-old man and he showed up with a black baby.
Well, that's the Lord is blessing that man. He blessed him.
The Lord has a history of blessing old men.
I guarantee you.
Yeah. I know you know the story of Abraham. I don't know how old he was when he fathered his last child. Enlighten me.
Well, he was over 200 years of age. During that time, you could live to be 800 and 900 years of age, if you believe the records. Man just had to change due to sin. He started getting short, his life shorter and shorter. And now he's going up again a little bit because of health related matters. We have better drugs now. But the problem is they cost so much in America. I think the death toll is going to start hitting us again. But we have some great opportunities in the world if the politicians and others, keep this economy affordable. It's very difficult now to live a long time and have peace and harmony. But we are still going to say things going to work out. We can't give up on it, and no need of worrying about it. Just try to solve the problems as we can and keep on doing it day by day.
Now, Doc, solving the problem, you first have to identify the problem.
That's correct.
You got to put it on the table. Whether it makes you comfortable or uncomfortable, you got to put the problem on the table. Now, last Wednesday, you asked a question. You said, can an independent voter or candidate for public office win an election without a runoff by building coalitions with Republicans, moderates, socialist Democrats, poor whites, liberals, and regular Democrats? And the answer is what?
Yes, it can happen. A lot of people don't believe it, but it can happen. And the reason I say that, all the people in the world have the same basic needs. They need economic parity. They all have what we call shared struggles. And they always have to look at the politicians that's causing the problem. But if you want an independent person to come in and win without a runoff, he or she is not going to have any political ideology. They are going to have to be an independent with what I call a leaning towards independence only, no political designation. They can't be a Democrat. They can't be a Republican. And they can't call themselves a democratic socialist. But they must be able to work with all the different elements in America at the same time, visit those communities, categorize no one as a negative, and let everybody know that I'm going to work with your economic issues. You all have shared struggles, and we are not going to be using political labors because I want to help everybody.
Now,
And he's going to have to concentrate then on specifics.
Doc, we're in Mississippi. We are the most divided state in the nation. Do you think it's possible for our black mayor to work with our white governor in solving problems associated with the lack of opportunity for black folks, specifically in Jackson, Mississippi?
Well, of course. It all depends on what problems he wants to address. And our mayor been knowing the governor probably 15 or 20 years. They've been in politics together on the state level. And I'm quite sure they know that they can work together in certain areas. But now the thing is, one has to forget about the party difference and go and bring issues and share issues that must be addressed in Jackson and try to get them redressed and addressed. You address it first, then you get a redress. And you can't go talking to people about your problem, sir. You have to put it in proposals, very strategic proposals. We call it put it in writing. Specify what you want done. Specify what it's going to cost, who is going to carry out these objectives, and when is the completion date. That's simple. But if you go around criticizing the person with the money, you will never get anything. And then you have to have a team of people to show when you're trying to get some funds that these people are qualified to do what is to be done. So if you need technical specialists, you recruit those and put those in the proposal before you start asking for resources. If you need people that's going to deal in a negotiation with the government on the state level, and the national level, or the foreign level, you got to have people on your proposal list that can do that, instead of people thinking that you're not competent enough to manage the funds if you get them. And you have to go to other sectors and get folks in the other sector to work with you. There's nothing wrong with a liberal, a socialist Democrat, a Republican, and an independent working together on a common problem, as long as the mayor, whoever is sponsoring this program, is in charge of allocating the funds once they get them.
Now, Doc, there was this term, Uncle Tom. I believe that if one stands up to the public and says that, we got to do what you just said, and I can't be a Democrat nor a Republican, I have to be nonpartisan, and I want your support and your votes, I think they would call him an Uncle Tom.
Well, they probably would. But the thing is, everyone will call him an Uncle Tom. A lot of people don't seem to understand everyone is not alike. Everyone does not like fried chicken. Everyone just don't believe that you're supposed to suffer until you die. There are some good people in all different persuasions, no matter what the ideology might be. The communists, the Klan, the Republicans, the moderates, the liberals, the poor whites. Even though my experience is very extensive with poor white folks, there are, believe it or not, some good poor white people. Now, the percentages in these areas are not strong, anywhere from 10 to 30% in the various political persuasions that I mentioned. You don't need everybody. So if you get 10% here, 5% there, 13% here, 20% with the group that really supports you, you are going to have 51 or 52%.
Wow.
And that's going to be enough to get you a win without a runoff.
Well, let me ask you a question. Since blacks represent 40% of the population in the state of Mississippi, what percentage do you think poor whites represent?
Well, they represent a similar number,
About 40%.
about 35 to 40%.
Poor whites.
That's right.
Poor whites and blacks are pretty much equal in terms of numbers.
Almost equal, and they equal most certainly in the same problems that they are facing: economic problems, education problems, training problems, relationship problems, hatred for the people that's managing all the money and won't share it with them. And a good candidate will address those issues and let people know that we have the same problem. I know all of you not going to work with me, but I don't need but 10% of you. And on the other hand, ladies and gentlemen, when you're talking to these diverse groups, when I win, it's going to be we win. And I'm going to make sure that you are going to get some appointments in my administration on the basis of your ability and the training that you have.
You would have poor whites in your administration.
I most certainly would. Andrew Jackson did it, and many others. You have to get people that help you get in office in a position if they are qualified.
Well, what do you say to the statement that Chris Rock made on stage when he said that there is no white man in the world that would trade places with me and I'm filthy rich?
Of course not. I'd go with that.
So
Now,
how are you going to get poor whites and blacks to come together?
I'm not saying all of them, just a small percentage of them. See, when you add 5, 10, 15, 18, 7 all together, that's going to be significant. You don't want everybody. You just want a small number in all the groups.
Now, Doc, 40% poor whites, 40% blacks. Are you telling me that less than 20% of the population is ruling this entire state?
Much less than. It's about 11%.
That rule the state?
They rule the state, make all the policies, control the vote and the money. When you make the policies, control the vote, and then manage the money, and then have the ability to allocate funds to people that support you, you are what we call the supreme king in that political arena, in that church, or in that economic enterprise.
So where does that number have to get to be before we have a revolt?
Well, you're not going to have a revolt because it's not going to get there the first time. When you start working and people see what I call the rich folks, are those that have been making all the decisions, you have to ease in on them and get them by surprise. It is like telling you some time ago how to cook that bullfrog to keep him from jumping out of the pot. You put him in cold water and you gradually turn on the heat. And if you do that, you get your plate ready, your fork and your seasoning, and you have frog meat. But if you put him in hot water, he's going to jump out. You don't want to surprise these folks. You got to say, this man can't win. He doesn't have any money. We have $15 million and he doesn't have but $1 million. There's no way he's going to beat you. So they're going to lay around and talk about how we're going to win.
Now, Doc.
And you'll be surprised, sir.
Now, I get the strategy that we got to put poor whites in cold water and gradually raise the temperature and they may not jump out. I get that. I get that.
You got to do something to blacks the same way.
You got to do that to blacks too?
That's right. You got to do that to blacks. Because, see, you have a division among the blacks. A lot of the blacks consider themselves upper middle class. And they look at a lot of status.
You're talking about the mulattoes?
And the so-called educated blacks, too. They fall in that group.
Okay.
Those that have those specialists and doctorate degrees, those have those jobs in executive position with the federal government. And in these community organizations that are presidents and vice presidents, those people usually don't put a lot of interest in the black community, even if they are managing the church or the community organization, they don't live in the Black community. They live outside their sphere of influence. So you have to understand that those folks will turn their back on you almost any time, but at the same time, you got to be able to work with them. I never say you're going to get 100% of any group, but you don't need 100% to win anything. You need a collective percent that'll get you to the point where you can be a winner. It all depends on what the percentage is you need to be at the top.
So Jesse Jackson had this theme of a rainbow coalition. Did you agree with Jesse?
I think he had a good idea, and it almost worked.
He did run for president.
Twice.
He was a good man.
Of course. And he was a smart man.
Doc, we're dealing with issues that keep your strategy from working. On July the 4th, a young man by the name of Nolan Wells went out on a boating trip with all white friends. Doc, that young man didn't come home. On July the 6th, they found Mr. Wells' body floating in the ocean. And I'm not saying that he was out with rich whites or poor whites, because I don't know. But I do know he was out with whites. And so my experience has been that poor whites are harder on Black people than rich whites. The poor white gets his value from the fact that he knows that he may be poor and broke and hungry and uneducated, but I'm better than a Black man. And so that value is hard, that way of thinking is hard for me to understand how you're going to get a significant percentage of them to join this rainbow coalition to create a win.
The thing that I've found through observation and research, the more hatred you have in a group, the less support you're going to get from that group. So normally, if you get 10% of the liberals in your community to work with you, 10% out of 100% of the liberals, which is never a large number, you probably get 3% of the poor white. But see, the difference is you have to talk to these people individually. You can't go around talking to just the elite in the community. You got to go to the little local diner. You have to go to the places where they hang out. You have to go to their schools, the poor white schools, not the universities first. You have to show that you're interested in some of the trades they have. You have to go and make friends with them and see if you can get them to go fishing with you. See if you can have a small group to have a barbecue meet with you and let them know how you can help them address their problems. That's the way you have to do it. You have to work harder and smarter than your opponent with all the money and the one that has all the other cultural attributes, on his side. You have to work 7 days a week, 16 to 18 hours a day, and you have to work whether the weather is good or bad, and you have to have a small core team with you that's going to be able to be productive. And one thing you're going to have is an aggressive campaign director and a super aggressive voter registration specialist. And if you want to win, you got to pay those two folks. You don't go around looking for volunteers to be your director of your campaign and the director of your voter registration. You got to pay those people and give them a job description with metrics on it. If you go and work with the high school seniors, I want a certain number to be registered voters. If you're going to work with the local colleges and universities, I want you to go and persuade those students that's from other states that they are here in Mississippi, they live here, 9 or 10 months out of the year and some year round, you need to vote in Mississippi. And you have all kinds of folks, liberals, Republicans, moderates, independents. You get a certain percent of those. See, a lot of people don't understand and don't know that if you're a college student in Mississippi, you can declare that you are a citizen or a resident in Hinds County, whatever county you're in, and you can vote there.
Now, Doc,
You can do it, but you have to work on that.
you know, I read a lot of your publications, and one I came across where you made recommendations for reaching different groups. You said for Republicans and poor whites, you need to talk about lower taxes for families, rural job growth, and pride in local community roots. For poor whites and Republicans, you got to talk about lowering your taxes, rural growth, and pride.
You got to, we call it stroking them. That's right. So you don't go around criticizing a person that is a racist. You don't go around criticizing a person that is a Confederate lover. You let him or her know you don't support those ideas, but that's the way your mom and your daddy raised you. I understand why you're racist. I can still work with you, John Doe. Now, that takes a hard, strong man or woman to say that. But if you always tell people that don't like you that you don't like them, you will never get anything other than more hatred. So you have to give them a good, normal massage in your discourse. Let them know you don't approve of what they do, but I do know we have the same problem. And some of us got to work together because when I win, I'm going to give you something that you will not get from them rich folks that's been keeping you poor all of your life.
So there are about 400 million people in America, and they're probably being controlled by Congress and the Senate in Washington, D.C.
Well, they are, but see, the thing is that a lot of people don't understand the Senate, and I would say the Congress, really not controlling the people in America. It's those lobbyists that are bringing them all that money, and those big funders that have all these stocks and bonds that they are allocating and letting the people in Congress know they're available to purchase. That's who's running things. Those guys and ladies that's in the state house and the federal house are what we call gophers. They are looking for the biggest lobbyist in town. The biggest lobbyist is looking for them, and they're going to get together because the lobbyist is going to do what I told you before. He's going to bring them a proposal and say, Mr. Senator, after they do the research on this person, this is what I want you to do for us. We don't want to have equity in prescription drugs. We don't believe that the rural hospitals ought to be able to compete with the city hospitals. We need to have them just to disappear. Then we can have higher drug prices. The health care would be more expensive because a lot of people have bad health because they are negligent. So you want to put it on the people that are suffering and say they're the reason why they are broke, sick, don't have an education and training opportunity. And you know that's a lie in most cases. It is that way because you didn't allow that to happen because you controlled the funds, the training institutions, or didn't have them there at all for the poor folks and the unfortunate that live in rural areas to have the opportunity to get good health care, find jobs, get training, and things of that nature.
So you think the lobbyists are running this country?
They most certainly are, through their big-time funders. Those are the strongest and one of the richest segments in the country because they make good salaries, $200,000 and $300,000 plus expenses. Some have apartments in 2 or 3 areas in Washington, New York City, and down in Florida and Texas and places like this that the companies pay for. They have unlimited travel budgets, and they have millions and millions to give you to make speeches for their irregular monthly meetings. They put you on the board of directors, give you $100,000 to attend 3 meetings a year. They find scholarships for your sons and daughters at the big universities in your state and out of state if they are qualified to get in. And if they are not qualified, they can get in anyway because they pay the schools and some of the recruiters to get them qualified. All of this is known to happen. And you find that if they get involved in criminal activity, that is always going to be put on a hold. They are not going to mess with them there. And if they commit certain funding, what I call illegal funding, where they take money from the state, they're not going to prosecute them if they are white folks or if they are upper class folks in what we call power positions. They're just not going to do that.
Is that corruption?
Well, it is corruption, but it's not corruption if you had the ability to control the judges, the district attorneys, and the jury.
It's corruption, but it's not corruption if you control the judges, the jury, and
the district attorney.
And the district attorney.
It's
what do you call it?
I call it an opportunity for, let's put a good spin on it, the opportunity to control the narrative until further notice. Now, eventually things going to happen.
Oh, Lord.
But you might get away with that for 5 or 6 years. And folks don't worry too much about what happens other than about 6 months or a year. Now, like this Wells case, in about 9 months, you're not going to hear much about that. He would have been replaced by 2 or 3 more incidents. So he's going to fizzle out. His protectors know that. That's why they're running around here trying to get close to the relatives. They're going to get together, and those boys that are running things, you're going to find that there's going to be very little real legal maneuvering where someone is going to be prosecuted. They're going to always say, we don't have enough evidence. They're going to say, well, it's undetermined. They're not going to say he committed suicide. They know not to say that. But they're going to say it's undetermined at this time because they're going to keep certain body parts away from all the other autopsy specialists. And if they keep them away long enough, they are not going to be chemically good enough to come up with conclusions as to what happened.
Doc, on our screen here now, the engineer has put up a picture of Mr. Wells and a picture of Emmett Till. Doc, were you alive when the brutal murder of Emmett Till took place?
Yes, most certainly. Yeah, I was. That happened in 1954. So at that time, I was about 10 or 12 years old.
10 or 12 years old.
That's right.
And now here we are, some 60, 70 years later, and we got Mr. Wells right by Mr. Till.
Plus others that we don't see and not going to see because some have been killed and been found hanging in rivers and other places, and their names are not even significant. Usually, if you're a very poor person, your child or your daughter are not going to be exposed to the news, and the outsiders are not going to be interested in it. That's a local matter. They're going to have that funeral locally, let a few balloons fly, and that's going to be the end of that. And you're going to see the mother and the grandmother and maybe one male shedding a few tears on the local news, and that's about it.
Wow.
And if you look at it, most of the blacks that you see on the national arena are from people that have some reserve. We call it economic reserve. They have decent education and training, or they have a group of people with the economic wherewithal to give them support. But very few people care anything about super poor people, black or white.
We're going to go to a commercial break. We're up against a hard break here, but when we come back, we're going to recap our show from last week and then talk about a few points there. And then we're going to continue to deal with the solutions. We want to know how we're going to bring poor whites and blacks together. poor whites and blacks together in Mississippi. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Jackson, get ready for a brand new entertainment experience where fun, good vibes, and unforgettable memories all come together. Whether you're planning date night, girls' night out, birthday parties, or you just want to have a good time, we're creating the place for you. 2659 Livingston Road, across from the Medical Mall, Snooty Fox. It's your destination for a good.
And we're back. It was a quick commercial break, but as we said earlier, we want to do a recap on last week's show. So let's talk about a few things that occurred there. If the engineer could put something on the screen, it would be good. And so we are going to cover that. We talked about the local elections like Hodges and Clayton. We're going to keep our eye on those races. We talked about the difficulty between Tony Smith and David Archie. And Doc, Mr. Archie must have found favor. Now, let me ask you a question. Are most judges members of the ruling class or the poor whites class?
Well, most judges are members of the ruling class, or they are controlled by the ruling class. They are what you call basically middle class men and women if they have a state judgeship. Now, if they have a federal judgeship, they are considered middle class, upper middle class, because in just a few years, they will be in upper middle class. See, judges make a lot of money. Now, their salary's not too strong, but they have great opportunities to.
How are they going to get opportunities?
Okay, I'm going to let you answer that and let your listeners answer. Look at Thomas and some of those other judges that are Supreme Court judges throughout the history. I'm talking about Clarence Thomas. He got in as a poor man. He was a low federal worker with a administrative responsibility on the federal level, wasn't making a lot of money. And overnight, he became a Supreme Court justice. And in 3 years, he was a millionaire.
He must have invested well.
He did. He had some great investments with rich friends. They took care of him.
And he, in return, he took care of them.
That's the way it goes in what we call a democracy.
You take care of me, I'll take care of you.
That's the way it goes.
But it doesn't seem to work that way in Jackson, Mississippi, where we had 3, 4, 5 locally elected officials locked up and during an FBI sting, where they all have pled guilty. So that same philosophy doesn't apply to blacks?
No, it does not.
What applies to black folk?
Well, I can't even tell you. It is so embarrassing to tell you what applies to them and why they get caught in that situation. And since I have so much respect for black people that have what I call unfortunate things happen to them, I only say that in private and with small groups.
Well, I'm sure you will share it with those that call you to speak to their groups.
I do. That's the real information. That's when I give folks the real news.
The real news.
That's what I call the real news. I give you facts and show you your position as a person of no good results when it comes to people looking out for your interests when they are destined to destroy you.
Now, she's put on the screen for us, we talked about the fact that the Democratic Party does not have a candidate to run for the governor in the state of Mississippi, a state that's got to have 50% of its population or more have to be registered Democrats. Because if 40% of your population is black, they all Democrats. So I know there's got to be 10, 12% of white folk that are Democrats in Mississippi.
Of course. That's what I'm telling
Well,
you.
why don't we have a Democratic candidate for governor?
Because you can't make that happen by just being a Democrat. You have to look at who makes those decisions. The Republicans make those decisions, who the Democratic candidates are going to be. You all don't like to believe that.
Hold up a minute.
You all don't like to believe it.
The Republicans make the decision about who the Democrat candidates are going to be.
Of course.
That's crazy.
It sure is, but it's a fact. Those Republicans, and it's smart on their move. That's a smart move. They're going to look at the candidates that they hear that might be interested in running for governor in the black community. And they have their fillers in the community that's going to share with them who the top contenders are. And they are going to do their best to find someone that appeals to a great segment of the black folks, but they're going to make sure that he or she will have some weaknesses that they're going to use against them later on, about 2 weeks before the end of the campaign, that's going to distract enough people to look at this person as a lemon and go on and cast a vote elsewhere.
Wow. So we put up some names. We put up some folk that we know that have the pedigree, have the degree of competence, have the experience, and have the money to be the governor of the great state of Mississippi. And the first person we put up there, we should draft Leroy Walker. Leroy Walker is a businessman. He's been in Jackson, Mississippi for a long time. He had over 14 McDonald's restaurants here. He served on every board. He knows every major white person in the state of Mississippi. He founded the 100 Black Men organization right here in Jackson, Mississippi. What more would you have to do before you are considered a candidate, a potential candidate for the governorship in the state of Mississippi?
Well, that doesn't mean that he wants to be governor. It doesn't mean that he will run. And it doesn't mean that he's going to get the support he needs just because he's black, rich, and he is very competent. I know the man, been knowing him for years, and because he has a lot of connections. Certain people are not going to vote for him because they are trained to look down on people that are independent and those that are trained to do good for all and not selfish. And there are others in the community that's not going to endorse a man like that because he is not their candidate.
Would he get 90% of the black vote?
No.
He would not.
He would not. Because he's not going to be the only one that's running. If he would get in the race tomorrow, within 7 days, at least three more black candidates will appear from somewhere, and you're not going to know the names of some of them.
Doc. The next person we have on the screen here that we believe has all of the credentials to be the governor of the state of Mississippi, the Honorable Mike Espy. He was Secretary of the Agriculture under President Clinton. He has been a stalwart. He really had the congressional seat that Benny Thompson had. He was the first man elected there since Lynch, I believe. And so Mike has all of the capabilities. He understands the global economy. You know, when you're Secretary of Agriculture, you are feeding the world.
That's one of the most important positions in politics.
One of the very most important
position in politics in America.
So he has the credentials. Wonder why Mr. Espy is not running for governor. Now, he did run against Cindy Hyde Smith for the Senate, and he was unsuccessful. I don't know why, but he was unsuccessful. But he apparently has gotten beaten down. And he says he's no longer offering himself up for public office.
Well, you got to understand, when you get beaten all the time, dragged in the mud. You using your resources. Some of your major supporters not supporting you anymore. They've been persuaded to support others. And you're not getting any younger. You have family responsibilities that you must address. And sometimes you say, I'm just going to fade away. I use that word quite a bit. Say, I'm old now, I'm a little sick. I have to work and keep my family together.
Well, let's hope he doesn't fade away. Beverly Wade Hogan, former governor's advisor and education leader. She is a past president of Tougaloo College. She has all of the skills. She has the charisma. She has the finances. She's very capable. And Mississippi has never elected a woman to the governor's office. Could Beverly Hogan be a candidate?
She can most certainly be a candidate.
Well, why isn't she offering herself up?
Well, you might have to ask her that personally.
Well, I will, but I would think that everybody is looking at this and know that we don't have a Democratic candidate for governor. And it seems to me that somebody would ask themselves the old question like, if not me, then who? If not now, then when?
It does work like that, Mr. Socrates. You have to get the call, sir, from certain people to declare if you're going to be running for a position like governor. You're going to be calling around asking, if I run for governor or Senate, would you support me? You got to ask certain people that. If they say yes, you will run. If they say no, I've already declared and that I'm going to support your friend. So therefore, you would be a fool to run because you're going to lose, and you then mad because your friend, someone you know, the other two that we showed, been selected, and you're not going to support him or her. So there you have lost 1/3 of your ability to have that Democrat to win.
Well, not long ago, we had a black man that offered himself up as a candidate for governor on the Democratic nomination, and he was a truck driver, and nobody ever knew his name. And he went up against very experienced Democratic candidates, and because he was black, and because black people control 40% of the population, and therefore they control what goes on in the Democratic Party, that truck driver won the Democratic nomination.
That's right. But he didn't win the governorship.
We haven't had a Democratic governor in a long time. Mississippi is red, and it's so red that Barack Obama couldn't carry Mississippi, even though we're 40% of the population.
Well, that's true.
So,
and it has not got to the point where they can change in the near future.
Well, let me ask you this. I said that it's time for us to consider a woman for that office of the governor. And also, I'll take you back to Kamala Harris's run for president of the United States as a female candidate. I guess Hillary Clinton ran. And Lord knows we thought that she was winning. Well, maybe you didn't think she was winning. And she had the balloons and everything ready, all of the graffiti, and whatever you call that stuff you throw in the air, and ready to go, and it didn't work out.
Sir, you have to see what a lot of people don't understand, Mr. Socrates. Now, we get very formal now. What a lot of people don't understand, you all must know that you have to win by two ways. One, you have to have the popular vote or the electoral college. You don't have to have the popular vote to win if you lose and the electoral college vote for you. And you got to feel comfortable that you get a majority popular vote if you're able to hold it. If you don't control the Electoral College, you're still not going to win if you can get 60% of the vote and your candidate, opponent, gets 51%. He or she still can win. So you have to understand the Electoral College are usually the richest and the most popular and well-connected individuals in the respective states. They are usually appointed and recommended by the governor of the state and the major Democrat or Republican leaders. And they are going to get someone that they can control. They're going to get some of their friends. This person going to have a lot of economic power. He or she usually going to be rich. They are usually going to be from the same country club. They attended the same major university in most cases. They have worked with the government for a long time with government contracts. They know each other well, and they get in these positions on the Electoral College, and they know how they're going to vote before they are selected. Because if they are the liberals and they need a conservative, you think they're going to get a liberal, even if he is rich. They're going to put their vetting behind a conservative that they can control.
So do we live under a democracy?
No such thing. We never had a democracy in America. Never. That is nowhere in
One
the
man, one
Constitution.
vote?
No, they never had that. Never had that in America, in the history of America. You're not going to find the word democracy too much in America. It does not exist.
Well,
I know of not one instance where we have had democracy practice in America. Not one instance in the history of our Constitution.
Well, why is it that blacks think we live under democracy?
Well, they've been told that. They've been told we live in a democracy. We live in a nation where everyone has freedom of speech, that there's no opportunity for anyone that don't want one. Everything you need is here. All you got to do is go and work hard, and you'll get what you want. That is a lie.
Did you put your hand over your heart and one hand in the air to the flag and say the preamble speech?
I did do that, yes.
Did you do that?
I did it.
Did you believe what you were saying?
No, I didn't. I did it because I had a plan to improve myself. So you do those things if you plan to do it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisibly with liberty and justice for all.
Hope, no such thing. There is no justice for all in America. You can't prove that even if you call one of the strongest bishops in America. You can't prove that if you find the best constitutional lawyer in this country. You're not going to find that happening anywhere in any legal precedent that's been set in America. Never been any democracy, never been equality for all, always been segregation, racism, lack of opportunity, economic discrimination, political discrimination, social discrimination, religious discrimination, education discrimination, and training opportunities have never been equal.
Well, you mentioned training opportunities, and that's a great segue into our next subject. I understand that the Department of Labor agreed to a final settlement in August 26, officially rescinding its 2025 directives to shut down 99 contractor-operated Job Corps centers nationwide. Now, what's that about?
Well, that's about money. That's why they rescinded the so-called cut down. A lot of people don't understand. The Job Corps is one of the biggest financial booms in America. They had, when I was working with them years ago, they had about 107 different Job Corps centers in America. Some had 15 and 18,000 students. Some had fewer than that, had 2 or 3 with less than 1,000. But they have millions and millions of dollars. And there are so many people getting big, lucrative contracts from the Department of Labor, Department of Interior, and others. Most of them are sponsored by the Department of Labor. And there is nobody going to go and cut Job Corps out and make all them rich folks lose their contracts, whether they helping people or not. And you know who is getting the big, so-called big benefit from Job Corps? 16 to 24 years age, young people that are so-called poor. Most of them are minorities, white or black.
And so they rescinded the shutting down of the Job Corps centers, even though we have the directives concerning diversity, not to promote that in any way. And so now we're saying that the Job Corps can stay open.
They say it can stay open, and they released $1.8 billion and say we're going to have to let this money go, and we're going to keep the Job Corps going and give these young people an opportunity to get that education and training they need. And if you look at who got the money, sir, you'll find that some of these big contractors get $30 million. I worked for one that got $47 million 2 or 3 times in 3 years.
Now, I believe we had one right here in Crystal Springs, Mississippi.
Yeah, it's a small Job Corps, and you had one on the coast, and we had one up in North Mississippi for a while. But right now, far as I know, you only have 2 left. One in Crystal Springs and one on the coast.
And so those Job Corps centers, I believe, were managed in some ways by a local business, the late B.T. Jones.
Yeah, called Minac, his Minac Corporation.
Minac.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's right.
They were managing some parts of the Job Corps centers.
That's correct.
And I was glad to see that.
Well, he had a great program. He started off as a residential person, just a residential advisor. And he got fortunate. He was able to do a proposal to get a small contract. And he was like some of the other blacks that came from nowhere. He worked hard. He built relationships. He lobbied those people that had the money and say, I want my own Job Corps. He started off as a partition Job Corps person. For instance, he might say, well, my resume shows that I'm a residential person. And his first contract in cases like this, usually where they might give him $2 or $3 million to be the director of the housing component of Job Corps X. Later on, after you do a good job there, you add 2 or 3 more programs. And your third proposal usually is where you go and bid on the whole Job Corps center, and you start off with a small one. And if you can hang in there 4 or 5 years, you increase your numbers and you end up with 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 Job Corps centers.
The late Aaron Henry, the civil rights giant, was also involved in securing the first contract
for the Job Corps.
For the Job Corps center.
Well, he was a very strong man. He knew how to build coalitions, and he knew when to say yes and when to say no.
But he was the champion of the civil rights movement.
Exactly right. That's right.
But he knew how to build coalitions.
That's exactly right. And he knew when to step down or get on the sideline.
Why did Martin Luther King build coalitions?
Well, he tried, but there was so much opposition. See, Martin Luther King was considered an outsider initially. And the other black preachers that were available in his community didn't want to get out there and start causing problems. So they got a little young man that was new in town, wasn't even 30 years of age, and he didn't know any better. And he probably just let them force him to do it and say, well, nobody else, Martin, why don't you go and take this job as the chairman? And being new in town and with a family to feed, a young family at that, he'd probably say, well, I'll do this for a few weeks. And he got stuck with it.
You got stuck with it.
Now, I'm making it very simple, but those are the facts.
I hear you. Doc, we're out of time. And as always, time goes by too quickly. And so the settlement terms, though, of the rescission of the orders closing the Job Corps centers demonstrates the power that individuals have, not the kids that were going to class.
Oh, nobody care about the kids. They really don't.
So the power exists that can rescind an order to close all 99 Job Corps centers. And you say that the rescission of orders, the Department of Labor must fully cancel all termination and transition notice issued to center operators in 2025 within 10 days. Who has that kind of power?
The one that makes the decision and the one that is controlled by the people with the real power, those that had the contracts. They would get on the phone and call certain senators. They usually start with the senators in their respective states. And that senator going to be one that is one of the leading senators in the Senate, one that has the private number of the president that he can call and he's going to answer when it rings, that can pull him aside and say, my good friend John Doe is concerned about the fact that he's going to lose $50 million in 2 weeks. What can you do to help my good friend?
Within 10 days.
Sometime in 5 days.
That's power, Doc.
That's power, Doc.
And
Most
so
certainly.
no liability was conceded. The government settled the cases without admitting any formal violation of law or regulation, while agreeing to pay $50,000 in plaintiff legal fees.
That's a penny on $1 million.
Don't amount to much, does it?
Not very much at all, but that appease them. You know, they spent more than $50,000 on that case. That's a federal case. But that little crumb helped them a little bit.
Doc, you said that all 99 threatened campuses remain operational, protecting student housing, medical care, and vocational training pipelines. All 99 are alive and well because somebody made the phone call.
That's right. That's the way it works in America. That's the way it works in Europe. That's the way it works in China. That's the way it works in Russia. Everywhere. Except in Africa.
We're going to get into that. Doc, we're out of time, so I want you to tell all of our viewers all around the world how they can get in touch with you. He is one of the most renowned speakers and authors that you're ever going to meet right here in the heart of the Deep South. Doc, share with our viewers.
Thank you. Well, folks, if you want we call it the PCAP Media Team to come to your area, call us at 601-201-1957. That's 601-201-1957. And we'll come to you, talk to you, and give you the real solution to whatever your problem is. Or you can email us at clu369@gmail.com. Folks, we want to talk to you. We're working with some people now from outside the United States. They are pretending they want to give us an opportunity, but they don't want to talk about the right amount. We're going to have to get a lobbyist to go and call those folks so they can wake up, man.
I hear you. All right. We'll be back with you guys on Monday at 5:30. Y'all stay safe out there and good night.